October 7th, 2024. And would you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? And I believe it's my turn to do this. Everyone ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mary, could we please have roll call?
Mayor Pro Tem Scott Frank excused absence. Councilmember Le Silva,
Present.
Councilmember Lorraine Worthy,
Present.
Councilmember Mario Roscoe,
Present.
and Mayor Jose Rios.
Present. All right, moving on. I apologize here, I'm trying to get organized. Public notice. Anyone from the public may, at this point, address the council on any item not on the agenda. The council will listen to all communications, but will take no action. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on any subject not on the agenda? I see someone.
Hello, my name is Sandra Ramirez, and I'm here to address this proposed city park that may be constructed very close to my home. I oppose this endeavor, and I too have spoken to some of the neighbors that are not too happy about this proposed project. We feel this area is not a safe zone for basketball courts and or barbecue pits. The mayor mentioned in the last meeting with the city council that he spoke with 2 neighbors surrounding the area, and you feel that this project would be a great asset to the community. But you didn't ask how it would impact people that lived around that area. Most of us are senior citizens at this point, excluding a few. The noise and the pounding of the basketball would probably irritate us. My impression of the discussion during your last meeting was that you were all on board because the fact of the city funds weren't going to be impacted. But I feel the city employees and city funds would be impacted if this project were to be built. The upkeep and maintenance would have to be factored into this project. The fire department would need to get involved if the barbecue pits were added to the city. Then you have the fact that there is a slough abutting this land. How would the area be protected? Would a wall be built to protect the homes surrounding the proposed park? The ideas presented at the last meeting regarding the proposed park mentioned kids being able to walk to this area with no supervision of adults. And there is really no adequate access walking route. I am concerned jumping residents' fences would resort to get to the park. Kids do that now, and there is no park. Other concerns would be restrooms. There are no available restrooms. Vandalism, graffiti occurring around the homes with more kids around the slough area. Also, this land around the slough area did flood many years ago and crested the slough. And that was the reason my father was not able to purchase when he went to the city hall to inquire about purchasing an area of the slough land to expand his property. He was told the land would never be sold, could never be built on due to the fact that this is filled land and not structurally safe for anything to be built on. Because I'm opposing this, I've also come up with some alternative ideas for a proposed basketball court. You have the skate park, the area next to the skate park. You have an area by the baseball field close to the city fleet building. The winery land, the person that's wanting to do this could come to some kind of agreement with the winery, and the basketball courts would be so close to the trailer park and the apartment complex that is affecting these kids not being able to walk to the school at Fairview or walk to this Gonzalez Fifth Street Park. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, Daniel Gutierrez, 1614 Money. One great thing about Gonzalez is we have a lot of entities who collaborate together with various things throughout the city. In my neighborhood, we have a Chispa housing project, and we've always had great terms with them, never had any problems. And up until the last few months, they have a number of residents there who have dogs, who they take to the toddler park next to their project to play, use the restroom. Most oftentimes the dogs are not on leashes as required, and a lot of times they don't pick up after their dogs. I've actually confronted a few of the residents myself. I've had one person who was kind of cooperative and a couple of them who are not, and I'm not the only one who's had that experience. I've also reached out to the on-site project manager there one time. I was told it's not my problem, or that's what they told me. It wasn't their problem. They have a green space there. I don't know if they even allow dogs on their property. I don't know if the city has any type of liaison with them that they could reach out to, maybe have discussion to please ask their residents. Make sure your dogs are on leashes, don't use the toddler park as a bathroom, or at least clean up. Because at some point, something's gonna happen, whether it's a little kid running around. This guy has a German Shepherd, he's pretty big. Or the kids are gonna run into what the dogs leave behind, things like that. But if you have a liaison that you can reach out to them, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
No.
No, I don't see anybody either. Who do we have on the Zoom? Stella? Stella, do we have any comments via Zoom?
No comments via Zoom.
Thank you. Mary, do we have any comments via
No
email?
comments via email.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and close this part of the meeting and move on to the consent agenda. If you've all had an opportunity to review the consent agenda, or you have questions or items that wish to be pulled, now is the time to say so. So I have Ms. Silva wanting to pull something. No? Ms. Worthy?
No.
Okay. All right, Ms. Silva.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have 4 items under item 4, the payable warrants. First concern is I don't know if there's a duplication, but there are 2 payments to Pioneer Realty for the industrial wastewater system appraisals. One was made on 9/13, warrant number 50846 in the amount of $7,025. The second one was made on September 23rd, warrant number 50891 in the amount of $7,000. And I was just wondering if those are 2 separate items or if there was a duplication of efforts.
Councilmember Silva, that's not a duplication. Those are separate appraisals efforts for the industrial wastewater project.
So is that the only cost that's going to be $14,025 or will there be more?
There'll potentially be more, but not a lot more. Those are for the preparation of the appraisals, and we're working through the acquisition of the easements. So I think there'll be possibly small invoices for the meetings with the property owners.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. I have 3 more items. The next one is warrant number 50877 paid on 9/23 in the amount of $166.60 to Santiago Melgoza for out-of-pocket Lyft rides. And I was just wondering what that was all about.
And there was the specialist drone training we sent him to down south Riverside, I think it was. The venue was not at the hotel that we put him at, so it was a ride share expense from to and from. And then there's after hour rides from another venue they held something else at as part of that training. So those are all directly out of pocket expenses he incurred that we reimbursed him for.
Oh, okay. So he's not given a stipend, a daily stipend to attend these trainings
Yeah, for Mills.
for other incidentals?
Mills.
Okay, thank you. Next one is warrant number 50909 paid again on September 23rd to Monterey Bay Area Self, and I think it ran out of space, so I don't know if there was anything after that, in the amount of $16,911.55. And the explanation, it just says there's claim number GHC 0051406.
I have to confirm this, but I believe that is our self-insurance, our insured. And it's the work that Ambesia does for us, but let me confirm that, just to be sure.
And the last item, warrant number 50903, also on September 23rd, in the amount of $5,000 to United Way of Monterey County for the 211 services. Is that an annual fee?
That is an annual fee that all the cities and entities in the county pay to be part of that 211 system.
Okay, That would have helped if it had said annual 211 services and I wouldn't have asked the question. But thank you for the explanation. I have no further issues.
Okay,
But I-
Mr. Mayor, I have one question.
yes.
When is the new system gonna be online? Do we
Is
know?
Mike, is he on he's supposed to be, maybe he can give a quick update. They are literally in process of doing training right now, so some parts of it have gone live for more financial staff or direct financial staff such as Mike and Celia. The rest of the folks aren't necessarily trained yet, but it's, is he on? Can you make him a panelist, see if he can chime in a little bit? Mike, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Did you hear the question?
I did. So the new system, we went live last Monday on what we call financials. And so the general ledger went live last week. This is our second week of going live, and we will run payroll and accounts payable starting this week. Then our third week will be next week. That will wrap up what we call the financial system. Then in December, we will go live with utility billing and cash receipting. And then December. And then in probably the February timeframe, we will go live with business license and accounts receivable. And then that will complete our suite of the financial system.
So Mike, if I could just have you elaborate, when do you think that the check run warrants will show the new system or will be updated?
The next council meeting, because we have not ran any checks since this last check run. And so this next batch that we run this week will be the checks following this check register that are now going to go live in the system. And in Carmen, if you want me to, I can also comment on the other Ambasia issue or the Ambasia question.
Yes, can you just confirm that that is what it is?
So what those are that we received multiple claims that the city needed to pay where it was, less than our stop loss. And it wasn't just one claim. And this is the one thing with this system is this was probably 15 different claims that made up that amount of $16,000.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? No, we're good? Then Michael, I'm supposed to open this up to the public since we've discussed it. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. So on those items that were just discussed, anyone from the public wishing to comment on these items may do so at this time. Seeing no one rush to the podium, then I'll go ahead and ask Estelle, do we have any comments via Zoom?
No comments via Zoom.
Mary, any comments via email?
No comments via email.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and close that part of the public comment period and bring it back to council for action.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to the regular agenda items. Item 13, consider approval of a 25-year lease agreement with Legacy Sign Company. The construction and use of an off-site advertising billboard sign on a city-owned parcel, 6+ acre parcel adjacent to Highway 101. Assessment parcel number 201-022-000. Staff report.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor. The image on the screen above is the south-looking view adjacent to the Constellation Winery of a visual sim of the sign that's been subject to a use permit and reviewed by the City Planning Commission. Little better location with the next slide I will show is you can see where the pin has been placed there midway in front of that landscape there. It's adjacent to it's on a 6-acre piece of property that the city owns. Access to that site would be granted by Constellation Brands.
And the next slide shows a little more detail on the location, and that this is the shape of a 6-acre parcel that has a detention basin on it. The city will only be leasing a 60-foot by 60-foot subsection of this 6 acres, but we'll get liability coverage for the whole 6 acres as vehicles travel over and come into the property. You may have noticed there's a resolution in front of you. But there's also the lease agreement that was attached to the staff report. The resolution includes actions relative to surplus land act, and since we own this property, we're going to be leasing a subportion that we actually fall underneath and are not subject to surplus land act. But in the resolution, the location vicinity map for A was actually left blank. We're going to fill that in a little bit later. The applicant's surveyor kind of needed the confidence to come through this meeting and move with Caltrans, and due to schedules that tight description of the 60 by 60 is going to come just a little bit later. We're confident that we can insert that into a resolution tonight. We'll fold that in. Just briefly on the next slide. On history, on September 4th, the Planning Commission approved a conditional use permit for the sign, including the recommendation on the design, the colors, materials, height, and placement of the sign on the city-owned property. Kind of hard to see right there, but it'd be 59. Well, let's go to the next slide here. The sign would be on a single monopole supporting 2 digital screens facing each way on Highway 101, both at 14 feet tall and 48 feet long, for that's 670 plus square feet of sign face on there. But it'll be oriented for optimal visibility to the highway. And even though our sign ordinance that we recently wrote allows a height to 70 feet, the applicant feels that 59 in this location is sufficient, and that's what the Planning Commission approved. And as you may see, the design draws from architectural themes already present in the city, such as the Gonzalez Archway on Alta at 4th Street. Next slide, please. And just a little bit more on the sign. We're not here for the use permit that's already been acted upon, but the screens do have light dimming and directional capabilities to minimize excess light exposure. And they're generally going to operate about 18 hours per day from 6 a.m. to midnight. But for you today is the lease agreement, the business side of things. And the next slide just kind of highlights the key components of the lease that's in front of you and attached. This slide talks about term, rent, and civic promotions. The use permit would be, or the term would be for 25 years with 2 options, with agreement by the city and the operator for 5-year extensions. Rent has been negotiated sometimes face-to-face and also extensively by the city staff, city administrators, and city manager, city attorney, and community development director. And we've established a $38,000 base rent annually, but also negotiated 20% share in net revenue. So if the net revenue that year is 45,000 or something instead of 38, we'd already have the 38,000 in hand, and we'd get the difference to make it up to 45. And also, the city's going to be present on the sign, and we're going to receive about 1 spot on the sign at all times. So the sign it rotates on 8 image cycles, and we'd have one of those 8 image cycles that's generally up for about 8 seconds, 64. Other components on the next slide are that the lease agreement in front of you also includes that we'd get graphic design services, and that our local businesses are going to be offered 25% discount on the ad space. And of course, the sign would be used in case of emergency or police event or other hazards to alert the community. And we also incorporated into the lease that we'll have annual reporting requirements on, sales and reconcile those things. There's also some escalators built in for negotiating the base $38,000 rent every 5 years. that would increase by 10% every 5 years. So those are some of the nuts and bolts of the 30-page lease agreement next to you, and in front of you is the resolution. And with the next and last slide here, I just want to recommend that you adopt the resolution as been presented. And, wrapped into here is a discussion in the staff report and in the resolution that it's exempt under CEQA. And that recommend that you approve the base 25-year lease with the Legacy Sign Company for the construction and use of this billboard sign as clarified in the terms and presented in the lease agreement. The Legacy Sign Company is here today, and I can answer questions as well, whatever your pleasure. It concludes my staff report.
Any questions before I open up to the public? Council, or staff?
I
Nope.
think it's been pretty clear
Okay.
all along.
So I'll go ahead and open this item up to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to comment on this item may do so at this time. Okay. I don't see anyone rushing to the podium, so I'll go ahead and ask Estelle, do we have anyone via Zoom?
No comments via Zoom.
Thank you. Mary, any comments via?
No
email?
comments via email.
Thank you. Then I'll go ahead and close the public comment period and bring it back to council for any further discussions or questions.
No, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to approve item number, item number 13 as presented.
Resolution number.
Yeah, the resolution is on the other page, right? Yeah, sorry. Okay, resolution number 2024-62.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All righty, moving on to item 14. Possible new regulations concerning encampments on public property. Staff report.
Mayor and council, we are going to have, our recommendation or suggestion to you is going to be to actually carry this over to the next meeting for a couple of reasons. The first being that the staff report referenced the number of attachments, which were sample ordinances, and unfortunately, they were not distributed with the agenda. So you didn't have the ability to review those and sort of say, yes, I like this, but I don't like that, and so forth. So we want to make sure that you folks have adequate time to do that. Also, the council member who actually asked that the item be agendized for discussion was Councilmember Funk, and so he's not here this evening. So that lends even more credence to sort of continuing this over to the next meeting. I will just basically say that what the item is about is this issue of encampments. In other words, folks who are camping out on public property and how the council wants to address that particular issue. Prior to this year, cities were sort of hamstrung as to what they could do because the rule of thumb based on a decision that came down out of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals was that unless you had a bed to offer for everybody that you displaced from an encampment, you couldn't move them out of the location that they were in, right? It was very difficult to do that. And so that Ninth Circuit decision was overturned by the Supreme Court later on this year, a few months back, actually, with the court making the determination that the removal of the encampments was not a violation of the Eighth Amendment prohibition to cruel and unusual punishment and so forth. So the cities now have some free reign to control these encampments. This was also matched with an executive order that came down from the governor who ordered all of the state agencies and so forth to immediately take action to eliminate encampments. And even though they didn't have jurisdiction over the individual cities, to encourage the cities to do the same. So there's a variety of different flavors for how cities have addressed this issue. The feeling being that if we don't take some action, we're going to run into problems because other cities within Monterey County have already or are planning to take action to strictly regulate these encampments or prohibit them altogether, and that we will then have a migration or an influx of folks to the area where there is going to be no resistance to encampments. So there is some need to do this sooner than later. You'll see when you receive the copies of the ordinances that there are variations on the theme. Some folks have actually just banned them outright altogether. Some have sort of taken a scaled back view of this and sort of said like, no, we're going to identify sensitive receptors such as schools and so forth, where we want to make sure that there are no encampments, not in parks and so forth. But they've left the door open to some encampments in specific areas. But one of the common things, actually, the common elements in all of these are there's still a requirement that before you remove somebody from an encampment, that you provide notice of the fact that you're going to do so, that you have some specific means to remove property that is on the at the encampment site, and that you have some storage capacity for stuff, at least on the temporary basis, for materials that are removed from the encampment site. So those are sort of the common elements in all of these, no matter what the flavor is, like no encampments at all, or yes, we'll allow some and so forth. So I think that in the examples that I provided to you, there's the Fresno version, which is still in a draft version, but is the most strict of them all, which was basically just an outright prohibition on encampments. And then some of the others that I provided to you are more, I don't want to say liberal, but more accommodating to allowing some encampments in some certain places. All of them also, we want to make sure that if we did have an outright ban, that we would have some ability to provide some exceptions to that. So for instance, if there was a scouting group or something, a community group that wanted to have an overnight stay at a park or something, that we could allow that upon the consent of the city manager and so forth. So those are the issues that we're going to be dealing with, but we will continue this full discussion over to the next meeting that we have. And hopefully then you'll have the opportunity to take a look at the sample ordinances and provide staff with direction. And then we will bring back to you an ordinance that will address this issue. I'm happy to take any questions that you have tonight, or if there's any questions from anybody in the audience as well.
I do have a question, and it's very unfortunate, but unfortunately, but right now, I have been working with a family. It's a family that is here from Gonzales. It's a family of 10, mom, dad, and 8 children, the youngest being 3 months old. And I cannot tell you how challenging it has been for this family to find housing. So right now, it is a challenge. We do have a family that, as I said, and basically they're living in their car. And it's very sad and I've tried to make referrals and have them go to the different agencies, but it's just very unfortunate. It would be nice if we had a sheet that gives them information as to where they can go. Come November 1st, we will have 5 families who will be displaced from an apartment. And they lived here for 20+ years, some more than 5 or 6 years. So again, it is a challenge for cities. But folks, I have to tell you, when you see it, and when you see these families and you just know that they're struggling, and they're just, we'll take a room, we'll take, a temporary garage, my kids just need a place to sleep, and there's nothing available. So shelters, they're for single men or those that are, addicted to, drugs, but there's no family shelters for families. And in South County, we have none. So something to maybe have a conversation at the next mayor's meeting, Mayor, so that maybe perhaps there can be conversation about how we can have a shelter in South County for some of our families. And they just need temporary shelters because they are on a waiting list, and so it's just a trying to find temporary housing for them. But anyway, just wanted to mention that. So we can maybe attach to the list, or if there can be a list provided that as these families are being displaced, we can at least hand them something where they can go off and make these phone calls and try to find housing for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments or questions for staff? Michael, do I need to open this up to the public then?
It's on the agenda, so yeah.
Okay. Well, then we'll go ahead and open this up to the public. Any member of the public wishing to comment on this, I can do so.
Hi, Danny Gutierrez. I just have one question. The definition of encampment, does it include people living in a trailer on the street? Because I have one in my neighborhood where several of us have witnessed or observed people coming in and out of this trailer in the morning and at nighttime. And it's been parked there for well over a year, and we believe that they're living in it.
The definition of an encampment would be whatever the council decides, but it could certainly be, made inclusive. It's basically living on public property, right? So, street and so forth.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other member wishing to ask a question? Not looking? Okay, we'll go ahead. Stella, do we have any comments via Zoom?
No comments via Zoom.
Okay. Mary, any comments via email?
No comments via email.
Okay, then this item is tabled till the next meeting. We don't need to take it as a formal action, correct?
Ordinance, by way of email.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan. Okay, item 15, update list of parking regulations, staff report.
Mayor, council members, yes, this item is regarding updated parking regulations. So as mentioned in the report, staff periodically reviews the current parking regulations for any updates and adjustments. And it's been 6 years since the resolution of 2018. We started on this effort pretty much the beginning of this year. It's kind of an on and off effort. But and before going any further, just want to mention that just wanted to present this item, get feedback, and then I'll return at a council meeting with the resolution to make this all official. So as mentioned in the staff report, updates of the parking regulations include establishing 5 20-minute parking spaces on Belden and 5 parking spaces on 4th Street in front of the post office. The next one is the no parking at the new and expanded bus stops for the Monterey Salinas Transit Bus Circulator projects. And those have been under construction for the last several weeks. And as I understand it from MST staff, that project will take effect towards the end of the calendar year. And then the big one is Assembly Bill 413 that went into effect the beginning of this year with enforcement beginning January 1st of 2025. So Assembly Bill 413 prohibits vehicles from parking within 20 feet on the approach side of any marked or unmarked crosswalk. So anywhere there's a corner is an unmarked crosswalk. So whether it's marked or unmarked, and that's per the vehicle code. So the intent of this bill is to improve sight distance at intersections so that drivers can see pedestrians, because if a vehicle parks too close to the intersection, especially if it's a large vehicle, it blocks or can impede a driver's ability to see the pedestrian trying to cross the street. This Assembly Bill has been discussed at the last couple of TAMC TAC meetings, and this is really hitting the city of Monterey. And they're basically saying this is going to remove basically 5% of their parking inventory that they have. So there will be, and this is, of course, a state assembly bill that just trickles down to local enforcement. And, with the, I don't have anything else for this. That concludes my presentation. I'm open to council comments and feedback.
Lorraine, I'll start with you.
Okay, you knew I was gonna have a.
I
question
knew
on
you were
this.
gonna ask questions. So.
Well, actually, we've been kind of discussing this a little bit, and one of the questions that I have, I mean, obviously, this is going to affect our parking in our community. We just want to make sure that the residents understand that this is statewide. This is not something that we're doing, it's something that we're mandated to do. So I'm sure there's going to be an uproar in our community about taking care of this. In addition to this, my question is, we have had this discussion last meeting, I believe, about painting, in addition to the sidewalks, the ramps for people to walk on. I think this is going to be helpful, for residents. But I've had a number of residents who've said to me that they would be willing to help paint these ramps. I don't know if they're to be painted red, they're to be painted blue, or what the situation is, or if there's even a protocol for that. I just thought I'd bring it up in open session. So maybe Patrick, you could answer that question.
So yes, it would be red paint.
Okay.
And it is interesting in Assembly bill that whether it's marked or not marked, there will be enforcement. So we are planning to mark it so it's clear. You mark it by painting red curb, the 20 feet, and this is the approach side. So you have to picture, okay, I'm pulling up to a stop sign. I'm pulling to the intersection, not the other side. It's the approach to an intersection. So we're planning to paint that 20-foot section, and it'd be great for resident volunteers to help in this effort, including painting red curb on the curb returns. That includes, of course, the access ramp.
Okay.
And just for clarity, you're also referring to the ADA access ramps, what you're talking about in terms of volunteers trying to paint, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
so that's two different things. I do want to just mention that we are hearing from the other cities, as Patrick mentioned, that it's gonna be one really hard to enforce. But most importantly, it's gonna take a lot of parking away from cities. Salinas is freaking out about it, Monterey is freaking out about it. At the state level, lobbyists are also urging the state to take a look at it, but we're gonna do what we can here. But Patrick, can you address the question of if volunteers could also support the painting of the on-ramps, the ADA access ramps?
Yeah, I mean, we'd provide construction vests so they can be seen and provide the material,
Okay.
paint, rollers. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because I have had a number of residents say that they would be willing to do that. But it's interesting that we've been having this conversation about parking, and now we are going to be mandated to take care of it. So it's unfortunate, but it'll be interesting to see how it all comes out. I mean, is there a deadline? Do we have to have it done by a certain time, I guess is my question.
Well, it takes effect January
January.
1st.
So they have to be done by January
Uh,
2025?
That's whether they're marked or not.
Right.
The law is,
Ah.
whether they're painted or not, the law is now that any officers can enforce if they're parked too close to the crosswalk or the unmanned.
The curb return.
Yeah. I have a feeling that a lot of people won't understand that though, if they don't have it painted. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much,
course.
Patrick.
Liz, any questions?
Quick question. So it has been brought up before if we would consider parking permits in certain areas for certain residents. I mean, I know in Salinas, especially around Memorial Hospital, they have it. So you have special tag on your car because you live in that area. Any consideration for that at this point?
Carmen.
Yeah, the homework is city attorney Rodriguez and myself are gonna do some homework on that and bring opportunities back. I think I've mentioned Salinas has shared with us how they've gone about in the Maple Park area, for example, and others. They get a petition of those in that neighborhood that agree to get it permitted parking, and they've been able to enforce it that way. So that is one route we can go down. In specific areas of town, if the neighborhood wanted to enforce that and wanted to take on permitted parking in their neighborhood, I foresee a petition could probably come forward, and then, whatever 2 blocks or 3 blocks, whatever the area may be. But City Attorney Rodriguez and I will bring something back more in detail as to what options are there. Thank you.
So Councilmember Silva, I just want to build on that and say the city does have permitted parking by the Vosti Apartments on C Street, and it's on the order of, I don't know, 8 to 10 parking spaces.
Right, but that's the only part in town that has, and I understand that, but I'm just I'm concerned for residents in other neighborhoods.
Oh, yeah.
Some are older neighborhoods, say like the Brockman Drive, Elliott Street, Elliott, you can only park on one side. So it kind of gets a little tight.
Yeah.
Rincon Road is another tight squeeze, especially from Fifth Street towards Del Monte. So, I mean, we have some streets, and then we have the developments on the other side of the freeway that I'm sure some of the residents would like to have those types of passes on their vehicles. So they would be a known resident there. And especially if parking is now going to be dwindling down,
Right.
I'm sure they would appreciate some kind of a notation on their vehicle. Hey, I live here. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Roscoe, any questions?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did have some folks asked me about the permitted parking because they did hear it at the council meeting. And it was just a number of questions that came up. They were not in favor of the parking permits. They felt that many of our households have multiple cars, kids who have grown up and have their own cars, family members and friends who come to visit. How are you going to monitor? How will they be ticketed? What the hours will be? And so it was kind of a negative and not real positive. Although I did explain that, well, you know, you did mention that there's some areas in Salinas that do have it around the hospital. They wanted to know, well, how is this going to even work in terms of the enforcement? And so we'll see how it goes. And perhaps maybe doing a survey of some sort of the community to see if they would be in favor of something like this.
Thank you. Speaking from a pedestrian that all he can do is walk around town. Honestly, I see it as a great thing for traffic safety. I know that when I walk up Third Street, since angle parking on Belden to get to the post office, there seems, for whatever reason, there's always these very large trucks that are parked. So I literally sneak across so that I'm sure that I'm being seen before I walk across there. More than likely, most of what I do is actually come down Fourth Street because then I'm only looking at one side to see if there's someone coming down the road. Where on Belden, it's coming both ways. And since they're parked so close to the curb, it's really difficult for people going south on Belden to see me walking across. So anytime I'm with the grandkids, I will make the extra block and come down to Fourth Street, walk up Fourth Street, and then walk back around Belden to get over Pacheco's, of course. What else, right? But I do see it as a positive. I've seen far too many people over at Fairview School. They will make an attempt to park as close to the school as they can. And it also impedes a lot of people that are trying to cross across. And so I personally, I think it's a good thing that, you know, these red zones are being created because my biggest concern is pedestrian safety. And I think this will just improve that. That's my 2 cents. Sorry, Chief, that you're going to have more work added to your already busy staff, but you know, it's a necessity, and I think it's a safety issue. So at this point, you just really information only?
Council feedback, and we'll be bringing a resolution before the council at the next meeting.
Okay, perfect.
Just one question. We are going to have to let the residents know that this is happening. So I
Yes.
assume that's going to be happening after our next meeting.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and open this up to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item may do so at this time. It's an informational item.
Hi,
Mr.
Dennis Terrace again. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I know I had spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. I didn't realize that you were already doing a study that was required every so many years. I think the last time the study was done, we didn't have this problem. This is the last like 3 years. But I will say this, I'm an excellent painter. My father was a painter for 30 years. I painted the firehouse. I think Jason could attest that I'm very trustworthy with the paintbrush. I'm retired, available 24/7. I'll be
All
more
right,
than
there you go.
happy- More than happy to help, but I do appreciate it greatly, and I'm sure many other people will. I do have to agree with what Maria said. Permit parking, I don't see it being feasible in most of the town. Some of the town closer to the businesses, yes. In the residential areas, I do think it's gonna be very difficult to try to narrow down who's there visiting. I had 2 grown children and 1 son-in-law living with me. We had 7 cars. Now I'm down to 4. They're out. They got their own houses. But all my cars fit in my driveway, so, you know, I'm doing my part. But again, I appreciate the work you guys have done on this, but you got my number, you got my number, you got my number. I think you got my number too. So whenever you're ready to get this started, just call me. I'll do whatever it takes.
This is a perfect job for George.
Yeah.
It really is. He could get out there and do it. This will be good for him.
So he's being voluntold then? Okay.
Possibly three.
Nate too?
He's retired.
Oh, man.
Can I add something to that permit parking issue?
Yes,
The location in town that we do have permit parking is on C Street at the Boston units there. The majority of citations we have issued are for the residents who have the parking permits that failed to put them up. So just food for thought.
I'm sorry, Chief, I didn't quite hear the citations for who?
for Boston Park.
The permit parking on C Street at
Correct.
Boston, yeah, the majority of the citations issued are for residents who have permits that failed to put them up.
Oh.
Yeah, and I think if we do implement parking permits, it would have to come from the residents of that particular area. I think that'd be the most fair and easier and logical way of doing it. So I'm hoping that if someone or some neighborhood wants to do that, and we can work with them so that everybody feels represented. All right, Stella, any comments via Zoom?
No comments via Zoom.
Okay, Mary, any comments via email?
No comments via email.
Then I'll go ahead and close this public portion of comments. And thank you for the information, and we'll wait for the staff report next month. Great, all right, great, thank you. Moving on to the last item on the regular council agenda, and that is street maintenance program status report. And I'm assuming that's you, Mr. Dobbins.
It's actually myself and Director Dobbins, so we will tag team this one. We have a few things to share with you, and we can bring up the slideshow, please. Okay, so we are going to talk today about something we all know very well. We either drive the streets of Gonzales or walk the streets of Gonzales, and for the most part know the conditions of certain areas, and that we have a lot of infrastructure needs. And so we wanted to bring you kind of a rundown of where we're at, plans and where we're going, and potentially what we can do if we are able to generate a little bit more revenue. So next slide, please. So real quick, we'll go through the current conditions, which again, some of you are more familiar with certain parts of town than others. But we'll kind of go over how we do a plan, and Patrick will talk a little bit more about that. Our current unfunded needs, which are many, what the costs are to take on these types of projects, which is pretty hefty price tag usually, and the plan, and then our next steps to getting it done. Next slide. So current conditions. Some of the most recent projects you all are pretty aware of, our biggest projects, Alta Street, was reconstructed in 2018. The project cost us $5.2 million and was funded through a $2.5 million loan against the city's annual allotment from TAMSI's Measure X. The city currently owes $900,000 on that loan, and we are about 3 years away from paying that loan off. We also took out a loan against our Fund 421, and we owe $492,000 towards that fund as well. So, Alta Street was $5.2 million. Gloria Road, you all remember that one? It got reconstructed in 2020, and that was a joint project with Monterey County. The city's portion of the project was $600,000. And the total cost of the project was $5.6 million. So, again, they're just pretty hefty prices to get these streets projects done. And the Solid Waste Authority. I don't have their actual contribution, but we can get that too. But the total was 5.6. Other street projects that we've taken up recently was the slurry seal project that you all remember in 2021, which was our most recent one. That was a $500,000 project and was funded through some assessment district monies, city street funds, and a small allocation from Measure X and TAMSI RSTP money. And in
Measure K.
There's a question on,
That one. Okay.
okay.
It says K.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Measure X is the TAMC Big X.
Big X
Um,
with the little X.
in 2022, the city's insurance carrier provided $7,500 to do a little bit of work on grinding down the sidewalks that have issues. And then our city public works staff performs as needed storm drain and pothole repairs. So it's kind of just a picture of how costly these projects are and what we've been able to do in the last decade or so. Unfunded needs, Patrick, I think you're gonna cover some of our unfunded needs.
Slide. Oh, you're on it. Thank you. Sorry, didn't see it. Yeah, I'm gonna start with the bottom bullet, which is the city has a pavement management program. It was developed in 2016 and then we updated it May of 2020. It's now required that we have a pavement management program under compliance with the TAMC Measure X program. And, you know, so in 2020 was the last inspection. And I know it's mentioned in the staff report that basically the overall condition of the streets, again, 4 years ago, was a pavement condition index of 54, which is on the low end of good. And now I'll jump to the third bullet, which is, I'm sorry, I'm still on the fourth bullet, where that pavement management program recommended that the city budget, yes, $850,000 a year for street maintenance programs. We've done some very significant work, as City Manager Cartman mentioned, with Alta Streets and taking care of Gloria, and I am, you know, working on some other street projects that we'll get to. And what else? Taking care of our streets is a really important endeavor because the replacement cost exceeds $200 million. And the longer we don't do maintenance, the more costly it gets because it moves from a slurry seal to an overlay to a full reconstruction. Next slide. So these are some projects that we have basically on our plate. So the SB1 money, I think it was the first meeting in September where we presented a resolution and we'll allocate this fiscal year's SB1 money to resurfacing for sure the first block of 4th Street. And we're going to combine it with $53,000 of RSTP money. And I have a proposal in hand from a consultant to design that project. The next one, Safe Routes to School, it's $250,000 from TAMC. That's an outcome from our, the resident steering committee over the last year and a half, where the residents looked at the different streets, used information from, watching the school kids go back and forth to school, where are the improvements to improve pedestrian safety and mobility. And what rose to the top was pedestrian safety improvements along 5th Street, the US 101 interchange to Rincon, really. And what I say is to the eastern edge of the community center site. And so I have a proposal from a consultant to design that. We have 3 years to do that project, and we've activated that because I came before the council in August, and basically the council approved those projects to be incorporated into our capital improvement program. So that's activated this funding. Next one you can see is, yes, Office of Traffic Safety, $40,000, lit stop signs like we have on out here, 5th Street at Alta, and also 5th Street at is it Elko? Elko, thank you. And then some additional street lighting. And I think that also includes bicycle helmets, some safety equipment to be given to residents. The truck ban we're working on, and there's along 5th Street where the bid came in very, very high to have a contractor put in the signs, where the consultant said, oh, it's about $30,000. And we received one bid for that a year ago, and it was $73,000. And we're trying to find the funding for that, and also how do we slice and dice that project. Do city forces install the signs on city streets, and then we're merely having a contractor put the signs on US 101. I mentioned it a year ago, and when we rejected this bid, that the traffic control cost to just for the signs on US 101 was $25,000. Very big ticket item. And the last one is on this slide is updating the pavement management program. I have a proposal in hand from a consultant, and I know it's on the order of about $16,000 to $17,000 to update our pavement management program. And out of that, they would generate new list of what proposed projects. And they will be looking at different funding levels, you know, all right, next steps, next slide, please. So we're gonna, you know, we're actually meeting with COO of Braga Fresh tomorrow to go over a few things, and we'll be talking about the truck ban and how do they disseminate information to the long haul trucks that come to their facility, and we'll be doing the same with Damani and Taylor. You know, I don't need to read all of this, but let's see, I mean, third bullet, award contract to update the pavement management program. Definitely get going on the 4th Street work. And then the last one, yeah, and then work with the consultant, as you already heard, regarding the safe routes to school along 5th Street. One more slide.
And as Patrick mentioned, what you heard, the recommendation is to have the city allocate $850,000 a year to maintain street and road work. And that just hasn't happened because we don't have the funds to do that on a yearly basis. So we do what we can through grants or SB1 funding, but it's not to the level of what it should be, which is why we are, you know, living with the street and road conditions that we have today. Potential new revenue that can come through Measure S if Measure S were to pass. Measure S would bring in approximately $800,000 a year. Which we could allocate some, and this will be decided by an oversight committee, but some money could be allocated to street and road repair, among other things. Again, the oversight committee would make those final determinations as to how money would be used. Similarly, like there's a Measure K and a Measure X committee that decides how we use those funds. And then just ultimately, if that measure does not pass, we have to look at other opportunities. We are always looking at grant funding available, going after whatever we can qualify for. It's hard because some of those big grants want more people, more population. And one of the biggest things, and I've mentioned this in other meetings, one of the things we're getting hit on is our median household income. We're not where we were before, where we even qualified a little bit more for grants. Now we are considered high. So that actually disqualifies us because our median household income is actually higher than the rest of the valley. Yes, so it's unfortunate. You'll hear more in an upcoming presentation regarding a retail study that actually goes a little bit more in detail on that as well. But that is a good thing, but a bad thing as well, because we don't fit here or there. We don't have the population, and the medium household income is too high now. So anyway, that's where we're at. And again, this is just kind of an informational presentation, but you know, we thought it'd be good to kind of put it out there as to why we are where we're at, and really the cost of these projects, and how we can seek additional funding sources to help support some of these very costly projects on a smaller scale for us.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
This is really helpful.
And on that note, I know that it is expensive to put the signage up. I get it. I understand it. I don't agree with it, but neither here nor there. It is what it is. But I think, you know, we're stepping on a dollar to save a dime, because each and every time those big trucks come down 5th Street, they're damaging it to the point where, you know, it's going to be really expensive to make the necessary repairs on 5th Street if we don't get those big trucks off of there. And so that's my concern. I'd rather spend the money now and save the long run, you know, that street doesn't get tore up. Plus, the other part of it is all the foot traffic that comes along Fifth Street. You've seen the kids walking back and forth. I mean, until we get schools on the other side of town, that's gonna be with us for quite a while. I mean, I'd love to see the development happen tomorrow, but it's not gonna happen tomorrow. I'll probably be 6 feet under by the time it does begin to really take place. And until that happens, most of the kids are gonna have to come to this side of town to get school and go back to the other side of town to their housing. So, like I said, I think it would behoove us to go ahead and just figure out where we find that money to pay those fees so that we can get that signage up and get those trucks off of Fifth. That's my 2 cents. I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but I think Fifth Street should be a priority long-term because of that heavy traffic and what it can do to those roadways. All
As,
right,
as Patrick said on that one, we will look at how to slice and dice it. And if, you know, $30,000 is a lot less than $75,000. So we can look for support on the 30,000 if we do the other work inside the city ourselves.
And my question, Mr. Mayor, or comment, I guess, would be, it'll be interesting to see how the companies react to when you speak with them. I mean, I'd be curious to hear how that all comes out. Because they're gonna have to understand, I mean, they can look at our community and know that we're having problems on Fifth Street. So they're gonna have to work with us on that.
Maybe they
Just
can
my
divide,
2 cents.
maybe they could divide the amount by 3.
that would be nice.
Yeah, there you go. That would be,
Lorraine, you and I will go talk.
yeah, there you go. There you go.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and open this item up to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item may do so at this time. Nobody, okay. Estella, do we have any comments via Zoom?
No comments via Zoom.
Mary, any comments via email?
No comments via email.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and close the public comment period and bring it back to council. And I guess this is, again, just information because there's really nothing we can do with it, right?
Right.
Okay. All right, then having received that report and that information, we'll go ahead and move on to the youth council updates. They're not here today?
Yeah, they couldn't be.
Oh, that's right. Today's a holiday for them. Duh, my wife was on the holiday. Sorry.
What holiday?
It's Teacher Work Day, Indigenous Peoples Day, something like that. Oh, that's not till next week? Okay, all right. What is, oh, okay. Well, that's another holiday that my wife gets. Awesome. Wonder where she's gonna drive me to. Or communications from council, business from council. I'm first up and I've got the TAMSI report. TAMSI report was pretty brief and to the point. So we had a nice report out on the Safe Routes to School. All 4 South County communities really participated very well. Staff was very impressed with the amount of participation, both from English and non-English. So they were really ecstatic and shared that with the entire TAMSI board. The other item that was discussed at length was Mary Zeeb from the tax assessor's office was there to talk about the county funds. I didn't realize this, it's like $3.1 billion is what the county annually is working with. So they talked about how they basically were investing the money and making sure that we stay liquid and that we don't lose any funds. I thought it was interesting because they're advert to any risk taking. So as a whole, for $3.1 billion in assets that they have, I think last year that all they generated was about $10 million. No, gosh, I apologize. I think it's $100 million, which works out to be about 4.8%. So, which isn't bad. It's a little better than much better than the banks are paying. But I thought with $3.1 billion, gosh, I'd be playing that stock market, but I'm me. Why not? Oh, there's a lot of good days. Mayor Select Committee, we didn't have a meeting. I think it was too hot for everybody and they could not get a quorum. And I asked for a ride from Mayor Craig. Well, she was vacationing in Europe, so that wasn't gonna happen. So ultimately, the meeting was canceled. Moving on to the Salinas Valley Recycles.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I was absent at the last meeting, but I did ask Mary to hand out what our highlights were from that meeting. And just take a minute if you have any questions from that handout, let me know. I think they did introduce the Employee of the Year, who was actually introduced at the employee dinner in August, and I got to meet him at that time. And then our next meeting will be on Thursday, October 17th at 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. There obviously with the election coming up, there will be some changes in our board. So we'll wait to see how that happens. And and the Education Center at the Johnson Canyon landfill should be available for classes to take field trips up there very, very soon. So I'll let Carmen know when they are available. That's all I have.
Measure K.
So I will report that Measure K Subcommittee met last week. Today's Monday, yeah, last week. They met last week to just make a recommendation or come forward with a recommendation to the full committee as to who would be funded with the community action grants for this fiscal year. And there is a meeting scheduled being scheduled for October 14th.
That's what you guys came up with. Okay, good. Because I know you gave us some. I had a question. And I think you and I maybe have already talked about it, but it goes back to a community action grant that was given last year and was unused. They lose that funding, correct?
We're gonna go ahead and if it's the one we're talking about, we're gonna go ahead and honor it, and then they need to use it ASAP, and we're not gonna continue doing that. Yeah, because yes, it typically would be use it or lose it, correct?
Yeah, the reason I ask is because that's something that would be ongoing,
Yes.
so.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, we can't afford to continue doing
No.
that, so.
I agree. Okay, thank you. That's,
All right, council communications. Ms. Orozco, would you mind starting that, please?
Thank you. I know Danny already left, but I will reach out to him and give him some information regarding the Chispa contracts. We actually have 3 board members who sit on the Chispa board that live here in Gonzales. And I know I contacted one of them for some issues we had with just the loud music from the windows, not cars, but people who play music, and it echoes down the street. And so they were able to deal with that really quick. I also want to, Chief, I want to thank the officer who showed up at our church carnival. He gave a little pep talk to some of the students there early in the morning. So Renee Ganadin had set that up, but I didn't, I was busy running around, but I just want to thank him for being able to do that, and thank everyone who attended. It was a great event. And that's all I have. Thank you. Carmen, you will mention the Blue Zone project on Saturday in your report. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right, Liz?
Oh,
No.
this is just information in general.
Okay, so as many of you know, our, since the students aren't here, I'll give a little update on school stuff. Our stadium is, we're not able to use it this year, so our home football games were scheduled to be held at Soledad High School. However, there was, I don't know if it was a misunderstanding or a wrench in the works. They had to play, against RLS at MPC last Saturday. Then, God bless you. On the 19th, Gonzales will play San Lorenzo Valley at Alisal High School, starting at 7 p.m. That will be their homecoming game. On Saturday, October 26th, they will travel to Pajaro Valley at 12:30 p.m. On Friday, November 1st, they will travel to Marina at 5:30 p.m. And then their senior night will be held on Saturday, November 9th versus Harbor High School. They will play at Salinas High School, the Pit. So I encourage our residents to continue to support the Spartans, as you know, they're waiting for their home turf, so to speak, to be ready hopefully by next season. But unfortunately, like I said, their home games had to be rescheduled to other schools. And it was very sad for me to hear that the other day when I saw it on Facebook. So go Spartans, they have been winning, so they did win the megaphone back from King City, which is always a great thing to do in my book. So
Mhm.
that's all I have.
Ms. Worthy?
All right, I'd like to thank a few ladies. That would be Councilmember Silva, Sandra Castillo, Connie Ariano, and our very own Tiffany Twisselman for helping out a couple of weeks ago. We all worked over at the community garden and we pulled weeds and cleaned up quite a bit over there. I know we have agencies that are supposed to be working on this community garden and we should have residents too, but it's important for all of us to kind of help out. So Silva and myself are senior citizens and we're out there pulling weeds when we have students that could be out there. We have young people that can be out there. So, and we're also picking up trash, and I wish that some of our residents were here that they've gone now. So I wish they would have been here so that they know that we're all trying to work together to clean up and pick up. You know, I have actually noticed that I think people have been picking up their dog stuff lately. So, and I'm not shy to stop people on the street now and ask them, do you have a bag? So I think it's okay. If we all work together, I think we can clean up our community. So let's keep going with it. We don't have to do it just because it's September, the month of September. So I'd like to thank those specific ladies because the auxiliary worked together to do that. So thank you. That's all I have.
I really don't have anything this evening. I want to thank staff for all their diligent work and their fine reports. I appreciate that. It always seems to flow a little better when everybody's well prepared. So thank you so much. And then I'll go ahead and move this over to our city manager, Ms. Gill.
The end of the meetings, I always get this allergy, like never fails. Okay.
Carmen, I think everybody, my poor wife has been sneezing her brains out last night. She couldn't even go to sleep because it was so hot. You gotta have the windows open. If you have the windows open, guess what?
Yeah. I feel her pain.
Oh, we're fortunate we didn't smell. I didn't smell it. I was out.
All right, so just want to let you all know that next week I will be at League of Cities Wednesday till Friday, representing our local town down there, learning a lot of things, hopefully, that I can bring back. This Saturday, Salinas Valley Health is hosting their Wellness Day from 11 to 2. It's going to be a great event. They're going to have flu clinics, produce giveaways, a lot of information, Zumba. It promises to be a fun-filled day. Hopefully it's not too hot, but if it gets hot, I heard that they may even bring in some misters. It's slip and slides though. Anyway, and so make sure you get out there and support them, and just for the kiddos, they're also going to be giving away soccer balls. So make sure that they know, for first come, first serve. So get them out there early enough to get their soccer ball. October 19th is the cleanup day at Fairview Middle School too. They'll take your electronics, they'll take used clothing, whatever you have. So make sure you take anything that you don't want and drop it off there. They'll also be giving away free compost that day. So those who are interested in working in their garden, stop by and get some compost. Halloween movie night, our outdoor free movie day is on the 19th as well. As we get closer to the holidays, we just start getting busy and busy every weekend. That starts at 7 o'clock. Cars start lining up at 7 o'clock. And I know my kiddos are already asking me when it is. So I know other kids are gonna be excited. There's also a Halloween costume contest. If you've never been, it's pretty fun. The kids love it. And then the 26th is our fall festival and trunk or treat from 4 to 7. That's also a blast. If you haven't been, had a lot of fun.
Carmen, I'm sorry.
October 26th.
Oh, okay. That's the pumpkin one.
Yep, 4 to 7. Kids have a lot of fun there too. I had a lot of fun giving candy out to the kiddos last year, except they kept coming and we kept running out of candy. There was just masses of kids coming through, which was great. And then October 14th 14th is there's also a scheduled day for a community garden cleanup, and I believe it's the 2nd. So I'll get more information on that and we'll share it out through social media and get it out in front of everybody. That's all I have. The banners are supposed to be going up. I spoke to Tiffany or talked to her about it last week. The hero banners, the hometown here. So, well, I'll talk about both. So the school finally received the student banners, and those will be going up any day now. Public Works has been busy taking care of other lines and issues they've been having. And I've seen them busy on Fifth Street, but those will be going up. And then we're also doing a Hometown Heroes banner, Hometown Heroes sign program. Next year we may do banners, but this year we're going to do a signs, and we are going to do a ceremony most likely the Thursday before Veterans Day. And the signs are to honor our fallen veteran or those who have served. If family members want to join in the purchase of a sign, the Legion Auxiliary and the Legion Post 81 are both contributing funds to the purchase of each sign. And they're coming out really nice. Family members are bringing in their loved ones' photos and their amazing photographs we have. So those will be printed on signs that then will go be displayed at the park, and we'll do a little ceremony as well. So if anybody knows anybody that may be interested, I believe we extended the deadline till the 9th. So you have 2 more days to get it in, but last I heard we had at least 12 people participating. So for the first year, it's great participation. And Greenfield is asking us how we're doing it because they want to do it too. So that's all I have.
But wait, there's more. There's more. This weekend is our world famous free community-wide garage sale.
This weekend.
This weekend, both Saturday and Sunday. We've already have about 40 registrants.
Oh,
And this is where you take your best crack out of cleaning up your own property and stuff. And then what remains would be great for the following weekend to get through Mari's Tri-City event and to take care of that. So I just wanted to remind you about that. We already have about 40 participants, and plan your route.
I apologize. I did have 2 comments. So on Wednesday, I will be meeting with our Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren. She'll be coming here at 2:45. I'm sure it's just a little handshaking and how's it going type of thing. And then on Thursday, Carmen and I will be meeting with Senator John Laird. He's going to be representing our area now instead of Ana Caballero. And I'm sure it's the same thing, just to say hello, how's it going? What can I do for you? So you guys got any questions or give me a list. Give me a list. I can give it to her, but I doubt the way she's planned that I'll have much more than 15, 20 minutes with her because the time's already been changed 2 times. Started at 2, no, 2:30, now 2:45. My luck, tomorrow it'll say 3. So by the way, excuse me, Mary, I'll call you later and we can change those times. So I do have that conference room. I thought from, I think I asked Estella from 2 o'clock to 3:30, but I don't know.
And Mayor Chief Musio had one more comment.
Okay. Yes,
Yeah, I
please.
didn't have anything, but then I was reminded about the smell. So after the last council meeting, I made some calls. 3 agencies were contacted. They all fought and decided that Monterey County Environmental Health is going to be responsible for the smell. So talked to them at length about the problem. They're familiar with the operation, where it's coming from. They're familiar with everything. They are planning a site visit to that operation to see if there's anything they can do or anything that can be done on site to kind of minimize some of that odor coming into the city. So it is being worked on. In the meantime, I continue to report it. So if you guys get it real bad on your side of town, especially, let me know. We don't always get it so bad over here.
Yeah.
But if you get it and it's real bad, just shoot me a text and then I can just forward that information just to make sure it's kept at the forefront of their for this. We had it over here for a little bit. I think it was Friday night. We had it over here for a little while, but like I said, we just don't get it over here. Like, yeah,
And I understood that the reason we smell it more sometimes is apparently they use that stuff to irrigate fields. And so when they're spraying, it gets into the air and.
So what it is there's a fermentation process going on out there. And as that material is being digested and fermented with bacteria, it gives off that odor. The odor is there all the time. We only smell it because of sometimes the way our weather pattern sets up where we get that inversion layer that keeps everything close to the ground. Same reason, like sometimes when you see burn piles during the winter, or the smoke will go up and then it'll go flat and travel across the valley. That's that same inversion layer that kind of traps that odor down low. Yeah, so it's being worked on. That's about the best we can do right now.
Thank
Sure.
you, Jason. Anything else for the good of the order? Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor of adjournment? Aye. Opposed? Wait, somebody say, yeah, I oppose it.
Too late.